Positive thinking is useless. You know, that is exactly what a 40-year-old man named Ravi believed for many, many years. I mean, think about his life for a second. Every single morning, he woke up, went to work, counted other people's money all day long, and then came home just absolutely exhausted. He lived in a small house, not in desperate poverty, but definitely not comfortable either. He was just stuck. And when you're in that daily grind, counting everybody else's wealth while your own life feels completely stagnant, that phrase doesn't sound like pessimism. To Ravi, it just sounded like a matter-of-fact observation of reality. For Ravi, this whole trap began with just a single sentence he repeated inside his head every single night. Good things do not happen to people like me. And this perfectly illustrates this massive disconnect we so often feel, right? Because the world constantly preaches, think positive, smile more, everything's gonna be fine. But to Ravi, that honestly felt like an insult to his lived reality. When the shop owner delayed his salary, Ravi would just nod and say, of course. When his electricity bill went up, he'd say, well, this always happens to me. When he saw other people moving forward, he'd whisper, I knew it. He was completely trapped in this self-fulfilling prophecy of defeat, without even realizing that his own mind had become the primary obstacle holding him back. You know, life has a really funny way of interrupting our routines. For Ravi, it started on a heavy, rainy afternoon. A little girl with a torn umbrella, soaking wet, knocked on his door to get some shelter from the storm. As she was looking around his modest, kind of gloomy room, her bright eyes landed on something Ravi had barely paid attention to anymore. It was this old cup near the window holding a tiny, almost invisible green sprout. Pointing right at it, she smiled and said, it will grow. It only needs sun. Ravi just muttered, that it was a seed he'd planted ages ago, but those innocent words really stuck with him. I mean, here was a girl caught in a storm with a broken umbrella, yet she immediately looked at a tiny speck of green and just saw pure potential. So, lying awake that entire night, Ravi had this truly terrifying epiphany. What if thoughts are exactly like seeds? He suddenly realized that for years he had been planting seeds of negativity. Things like, good things don't happen to me, or I knew it, or of course. And what exactly had those seeds grown into? They'd grown into this dense, suffocating forest of fear, doubt, and total hopelessness. It really begged the ultimate question. What if he simply planted something different? The very next morning, Ravi's entire approach changed, but quietly. Instead of waking up and shouting these hollow promises at a mirror about becoming a millionaire or a champion, he embraced micro-habits. He literally just cleaned the cup holding the little plant and moved it closer to the sunlight. He got to the shop 10 minutes early to sweep the floor without his boss even asking, and when the first customer walked in, instead of his usual silent, exhausted nod, he looked right up and said, "Good morning." And the customer actually smiled back. Now, these seem almost too small to matter, right? But the simple action of just trying made Ravi feel visible for the very first time in years. Ravi even began tracking these little micro-habits, writing just one basic sentence every night. Today I tried. Today I smiled. Today I did not complain. Now, I want to emphasize something absolutely crucial here. His financial problems didn't magically disappear overnight. Money was still super tight. His life was still hard. But this new daily habit of documenting small, deliberate victories began shifting something really profound deep down inside of him. He was finally proving to himself that he actually had agency over his own life. Because, of course, life is never just a straight line up, is it? One evening, an incredibly heavy rainstorm severely damaged the roof of the shop where Ravi worked. Just like that, all those small savings he had finally managed to scrape together had to go straight toward dealing with the fallout. And man, in the face of this disaster, that old cynical thought rushed right back into his mind. See, positive thinking is useless. He almost believed it again. He was literally on the absolute brink of giving up, of letting that old, dark forest of doubt just swallow him whole. But guys, this was the ultimate turning point. Right as he was about to quit, Ravi looked over at the window. Despite the terrible weather, his little plant had sprouted a brand new leaf. It didn't grow because the conditions were perfect. It grew anyway. And it hit him. He could not control the storm. He couldn't control the rain, the ruined roof, or the high prices, but he absolutely could control his response. So you know what? He didn't complain, he asked a neighbor for help, he repaired what he physically could, and he even thanked the shop owner for trusting him. Fast forward 2 years.
Because Robbie focused on his response, people really started to notice the compounding results. He wasn't suddenly louder or wealthier, but he developed this steadier, much calmer demeanor. And because of his pleasant attitude, more customers began returning to the shop. A local teacher started buying regular supplies from him, specifically choosing his shop over others. These controlled, positive responses resulted in a steady accumulation of savings, deep respect from his community, and above all, real inner peace.
Eventually, this story comes full circle. One day, that exact same little girl with the torn umbrella visited Ravi again, obviously much taller now. She told him that because he always told her to try again, she now wanted to become a teacher. Hearing this prompted Ravi to look at his own now tall plant and fundamentally redefine what positive thinking actually is. And this is really how we must view it too. It's not pretending problems don't exist. It is not some delusional magic that just makes your bills disappear or fixes a broken roof. Real positive thinking is simply choosing to say, I will take one step anyway. It's a highly practical mindset that literally changes your daily direction.
Because real growth almost always begins quietly. It's not shouting big dreams from the rooftops. It's whispering, I can try again. You really don't need to be the loudest person in the room with the biggest, most elaborate vision board. You just need that small whisper of effort. If you care for it daily, that one tiny seed of an attempt can eventually grow into an immense, unshakable strength that can weather absolutely any storm. So I have to ask you, what thoughts are you planting right now? In your career, in your relationships, or even just in your own quiet moments? Are you planting seeds of doubt, or are you planting seeds of courage? Remember, every single thought is a seed, and it's slowly reshaping the actual neural pathways of your brain. What you choose to whisper to yourself today is exactly the reality you're going to be trapped in or freed by tomorrow. So, what will you whisper next?